As MPs return to Parliament Hill this morning, Prime Minister Mark Carney is responding to new tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. Here's what he had to say.
We have commitments under CUSMA that not to pursue free trade agreements with non-market economies without prior notification. We have no intention of doing that with China or any other non-market economy.
Over the weekend, President Trump threatened a 100% tariff if Canada, quote, makes a deal with China. Trump then doubled down on Sunday, posting on Truth Social that Canada is systematically destroying itself with one of the worst deals of any kind in history. This is after a week ago saying he praised Canada's deal with China. For more on Trump's comments and what to expect this morning as Parliament returns, we're joined by the Globe and Mail's Robert Fife, Ottawa's bureau chief. Good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, there's been so much to follow, even in the last couple of weeks. But on Sunday, the very latest, the Prime Minister reiterated Canada is not pursuing a free trade deal with China. That would be against CUSMA. Earlier this month, Canada agreed to, of course, decrease EV tariffs in exchange for China decreasing our tariffs on canola in the strategic new partnership in the New World Order. What could the U.S. president consider as a deal between China and Canada, or is this just bluster?
Oh, look, the president, when the deal was announced with China, he said, "Look, this is a good deal. I would have done the same thing. This is not a far-reaching free trade agreement." But we all know why the president is going after Canada, because the baby in the White House is upset that the prime minister upstaged him in Davos with a Churchillian speech, talking about how terrible it is for a country such as the United States and China, which he didn't use their names, to use trade agreements and economic leverage and tariffs to try to bully smaller countries. That's the reason why President Trump is angry at Prime Minister Carney. He'll move on to other things, because right now the United States is facing very serious protests in the United States over killing by ICE agents, and the economy is not doing as well in the United States. So he'll fume at Canada for a little bit and then move on to other issues that bother him.
You know, President Trump isn't the only one who had criticism for the Prime Minister's speech in Davos. Obviously, that was upsetting to him. But, you know, here in Canada, the opposition said people cannot eat speeches. So given that sort of context as we head back to Parliament this morning, how will that shape Prime Minister Carney's response here at home?
Well, that's a good question. The Prime Minister actually won't be in question period today. But he is going to make an announcement this morning to increase the GST tax rebates for largely poorer families. It'll increase over 5 years to 25%. There'll be some other measures as well. It's all about cost of living to help people cope with rising costs. That's a focus the government is aware that they have to deal with. Later today, he's going to meet Doug Ford to talk about presumably EV vehicles and other issues like that. He's got a First Minister's meeting later this week where they're going to obviously talk about how to move major projects, but also how to deal with the United States in trade negotiations that will be coming up in June or July. But he's also got a very, very busy travel schedule. He's going to go in March to India, where we're going to expect him to sign a free trade agreement. He's going to Australia where he'll speak to Parliament, and then he's going to likely go to Brazil, which is a very big market, and Canada would like to be able to have a free trade agreement with them. So it's all about the Prime Minister spends a lot less time in Parliament, and he's going to continue to do these kind of traveling across the world to try to beef up trade deals and to get investment in Canada. I also suspect that we're heading into an election.
You suspect we're heading into an election. Why do you say that?
Well, he doesn't have a majority yet, and I'm not sure he's going to get one. The opposition parties have not been cooperative in the House of Commons. For example, the budget implementation bill is still stalled in the House. And if you look on social media, there's all kinds of videos of the Prime Minister talking about how he's building Canada for the future. All of that has, to me, the smell of an election coming. Everywhere you look, on TikTok or on Facebook or on X, you're going to see these positive things about Mr. Carney talking up Canada. And if he can get a majority government before the trade negotiations begin with Mexico and the United States in July, I think that would strengthen his hand. So that's my sense. I think that's coming. We'll wait and see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Okay, so then when would that be, Bob?
Well, it'll have to be after probably in April, because that travel schedule in March is really important, particularly if you can get that trade deal with India, which is the world's most populous country. India had been closed off to much of the world, but it's now working because of Donald Trump and the tariffs that he put on India. The India government is opening up to the world as well. It wants a fast trade deal with Canada. It's working on one with the European Union. So you can see where the world is going. Very much what Mr. Carney talked about in Davos is that countries that used to be relying on the United States have had to find partners in other areas for trade.
Okay, Bob, while I have you here and you floated this, I have to ask. So if we are looking at having one before July, we just had an election in April. It cost $500 million. So in an affordability, is that a time to have an election? And is that a big gamble? Yes, he seems to have momentum behind him, but there's also momentum behind two potential referendums on separatist movement. There's infighting amongst the premiers as they try to figure out what nation building looks like for them. That sounds like a really big gamble. So yes, on a global stage, there's momentum, but what's happening here at home? Is it the right time for him for an election?
Well, the problem he has right now is that he can't get legislation through Parliament because even though he has a significant minority, and recently it just gotten a majority, it's touch and go, and he doesn't control the committees. And I think a majority government would allow him to deal much better with getting a lot of these projects, major projects underway, in dealing with Donald Trump. But more important, if we're going to have a separatist government coming in Quebec, very likely in the fall, much better to have a strong majority government. And also there's a possibility of a referendum in Alberta as well, which of course makes no sense. Look, but as you say, this is always a gamble, and elections do matter. And if you call an election, you could lose. But I think they see Pierre Poilievre, who faces a leadership review vote on Friday night, as a weaker leader than they would if the Conservatives had somebody who was maybe more experienced and business oriented.
Bob, I feel like the news now is like the snowstorm we're living through right now, where it just keeps coming and coming. We just went through an election. I feel like I just caught up on my sleep. Here we go again, apparently. Bob Fife with the Globe and Mail, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.